Okay, so fire away with your questions. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. So we got onto part of the course in regards to Ruqyah, and I said I do Ruqyah, etc. And alhamdulillah, there's a video of me on YouTube doing Ruqyah to some non-Muslim, and he's reacting, and so been doing Ruqyah for about 10-15 years now. So alhamdulillah, I'm quite experienced in it. And your question was in regards to?
Hypnosis, and what your stance would be on hypnosis.
Why would you say that? What is for example, generally, what is your problem with hypnosis?
I don't really have a problem with hypnosis. It's more of just me asking about it, like the Islamic stance.
Okay.
I've heard of other people speaking about it, and I know there's two different types. There's like medical hypnosis, and then there's the other type of hypnosis where it's like stand-up comedians like making people doing different things.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it puts you in a vulnerable position, and they kind of speak words to you and suggestions and lead you on into doing things that you don't have control over.
Okay.
But when it comes to the medical side, that's more plausible, that's more understandable. But I just wanted to.
Cool, not a problem at all. So this is a common thing with Muslims. Okay, whenever we ask anybody, and this can be a scholar as well, by the way, say, Sheikh, what is your definition of something magical or jinni or stuff like this? And they will always say, give you an example of, brother, this incident happened, it's so implausible, how is it done? Okay, and the fact that they don't know, that's the key element, that then it'll be, it could be magic, it could be jinn. So even if you listen to many Ruqyah talks, you will find Raaqi say, for example, this old woman, she became so strong and she lifted this and she threw that, therefore it must be a jinn. See, once again, it's that same thing that we don't understand how that is possible. Okay, therefore it must be a jinn, or therefore it must be magic. And the same logic goes through the whole of this Islamic superstition stuff. And so it's the same thing. So with these scholars who say that it could be jinn or magic, the reason they're saying it is because they don't necessarily understand it. And they say, well, like you said, the person's lost control. So with myself, I had a challenge with some brothers, and initially in the Ruqyah early years, we actually thought same thing as most other people, that these people, they must be using jinn. This is the only way they're managing to make people do this stuff, because it's crazy the stuff they're doing on stage in particular, where the person's hopping around like a chicken or clucking and this and that. You're thinking, this is insanity, right? And the person was also saying right at the beginning, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. So you see these YouTube videos, the person saying, I'm not going to do it, and then the guy clicks his fingers and the guy's doing it. So isn't this magic, or isn't this some kind of speech, or a magic of speech, okay, that the person's managed to speak to them in a way that has made them magically affected, or they said some words or uttered some shirk or something underneath their breath, yeah? And this goes back to that superstitious mind and suspicious mind as well. So I went to one of these famous guys and I called him up and I said to him, listen, me and you need to meet up, right? And you're gonna teach me how to do this stage hypnosis. And he charged me a price, which was quite expensive in the days. And so I told some brothers, we had a bet on, okay? And some of us were saying he's using this jinn or something like that. And I said, okay, fine, so we'll go there. When he does it, we'll recite Quran, and we'll do whatever. And if someone reacts adversely, or he stops or something like this, and that will possibly prove our case. So when I met him, his name's Rory Z actually, and you can check him up on YouTube. And I don't know if he's still got his previous videos where he was doing the street magic. He'd just walk down the street and you see them click their fingers and make people say things and do things that doesn't seem possible. So when I met him, I said to him, go on then, do your magic, go on, hypnotize me. And he started laughing and he goes, look, that's not how it works. Okay, and I go, well, what are you talking about? I see you do this every day on stage, and you know, you've done it so many times, and now I've paid you and I'm here, and now you're telling me you can't do it. Right? And he goes, no, look, there's a process, okay, that happens. So on stage, what happens is they seek people who will mentally comply. Okay, and he goes, we have a filtering process. Okay, so let's say he's on stage and it's Friday night and 100 people come in. He will say to the 100 people, hi, welcome everybody to the show, and who's here is enjoying themselves, say I. Okay, and then a certain amount of people will say I. And then he'll say, okay, who's enjoying themselves really a lot? Can you put your hand up? And some people will put their hand up. And then he goes, and who would really like to have a good time? Put both hands up. And some people will put both hands up, yes?
Yeah.
Can you see? He's looking at the audience who's complying. Yes, okay, who's suggestible. This is what they call in hypnosis, they're called suggestibility tests. Okay, so he's doing that clearly. He goes, as for you, my friend, if you came to my show and you sat there like you do, I would never choose you. Okay, because I know you're not going to comply. He goes, so when it comes to asking people to come on stage, we've already done a set of tests and we know who in the audience to choose. So when we say who would like to come on stage, if you put your hand up and you didn't do any of the compliance tests, we would never choose you. We're only going to choose the people who are suggestible in the first place. So would you like to come up? Okay, so number one, you've complied to all the tests. Number three now, would you like to come up? And you have come up. So there is a part of you who wants to do it. Okay, and then obviously once you've come up, then it's just a matter of step 1, 2, 3, 4, and you will comply. Okay, and you will say to yourself, well, I didn't want to do this, I didn't want to do, but that's not true, because you did want to do it, hence you turned up on stage and you're now sitting there, right? And he goes, and we know the difference between the person who's going to do it and the person who's not going to do it, and we will never choose them because they'll just humiliate us. Do you see what I mean? And that's not sihr. Again, that's not magic, because it's a medical step. It's step 1, 2, 3. Okay, and any scholar can come, they can have a look at it, and we can show them with any person. As long as the person's willing, then you can put them in a state of hypnosis. Okay, and some people say, well, I wasn't willing or this and that, but you were, brother, because they were already tested you to see that whether you're suggestible. Okay, and that's what happens. So I've had my own personal friends say to me, oh, bro, you know hypnosis, you can do that, why don't you do it on us? And it's the same thing. Well, you're my friend, you're not going to allow me, right? And it doesn't happen that way. Okay, but if you go to anyone else, they will figure it out and they'll do it. And do you see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a case, another case, which I think is slightly different, but I think it involves some form of hypnosis into it. But I want to know what your thoughts are on this. And the reason why I know that is because I've been to this show specifically, yes, in the days before I am who I am now.
Yes.
So Darren Brown is
yes,
he's a well-known name.
Yes.
He's known for just saying, yeah, I'm just able to do these things through hypnosis, etc.,
yes,
etc. And he's been very upfront about NLP, etc.,
right,
neuro-linguistic programming, and etc. So there was a case that made me think,
okay,
and as you generally would, you'd be suspicious of some of the things
Hold on
that happen.
a second.
Yes.
Remember the definition I said right at the beginning. There's always something where the person doesn't understand. I don't know how, or I don't know why. Therefore, this could be Jinn or magic. Is this where we're heading?
No.
All right.
Okay. So I was suspicious of what was actually happening there, because
yes,
I was thinking to myself that perhaps there is some, maybe someone, they're in on the act almost.
Okay. Some people are, yes.
Yeah, and the reason I say this is because a woman who wasn't able to see out of
yes,
one of her eyes,
yes,
could all of a sudden see. A woman
yes,
who couldn't stand all of a sudden
yes,
was able to stand. He goes, if you know what he does, he goes off with the thing where he says, I'll do what they're doing in these churches where they suddenly heal with the power
yes,
of God.
I've got that, yes.
Yes. So she stood up, and then he said, who has somebody in the audience with a husband named Dave or
Yes.
something like that? So he
Yes.
said that, and she says, "Is he here?" No, he's not. He's at home probably watching TV.
Yes.
And then he says, somebody called Dave all of a sudden has been cured of a cyst or something that's been inside his stomach,
Yes.
and he's not even in the audience.
Yes.
This is not recorded live. This is off-air recording.
Yeah,
So they say.
Yes.
So they say.
Yes.
So once that's happened, at the end of the show, he says to everybody, just be aware that this is only temporary, and all of these things will wear off by the
Yes.
time you've left the building.
That's right.
So
yes.
so what is your perception, or what is your knowledge on that?
Okay. So on the one where he's curing those people, like the blind guy,
Mhm.
the deaf person, and stuff like that, he actually explains there and then how he does that. I've actually got that clip. I can upload it back onto
Okay.
YouTube. He explains it.
Sure.
He goes, "Look, this is how I trick you and fool you, and this is how spiritual healers also do the same thing. That they'll put you on a boost, okay, and for the minute or that moment, you will feel energized, or you will feel better.
So it's like
okay?
a
'Cause
placebo effect.
it's like a placebo. And look, let's say you're down and depressed and you feel your eyesight is not there or your hearing is not there. All of a sudden you're called on stage, everyone's clapping, roaring and cheering. You feel better immediately. Now, if I was to ask you, do you think that your eyesight's a bit clearer? You're going to say, yeah, even though it's not, because you just feel so much better.
There's pressure.
Yeah, and so he explains that in those terms. But medically, if we were to test it, which no healer does,
Yes.
and no magician does, to say, look at this distance, you can only see this, then you'd find it's exactly the same. You see, so there's another case of a lady who went from here, I don't know how many, she paid £30,000 to see some healer in Australia
Wow.
who's going to cure her from a wheelchair. Nothing. It's just con work. Okay, so you've got to
So-
be careful.
I mean, I don't want you to say yes or no, but for like in terms of hypnosis, would you say it's only allowed in a medical setting, and would you say
No. So in Islam, there's a basic principle: everything is halal unless there's a very specific, clear text to say that it's haram. So for the scholars or whoever's saying it's haram or forbidden, please bring a very clear text or a reason to say why it shouldn't be. Okay, and your suspicion that this is magical or
No,
this
no,
is
like,
whatever, then
even if
that
it's
doesn't
even
exist.
if like not magic, but
Yeah,
for use of it in leisure in general,
yeah.
would you say it's okay? But for use of it in medical purposes, it would be okay.
It's just like playing a game. Okay, so if you want to play the game, you're welcome to play the game. Okay, and if you didn't, you're not. But to say haram is saying Allah's going to throw you into the fire for it, or threaten you with the fire, you need a very clear text for that. See what I mean? And we need to get out just because we're unsure of something and saying that I'll stay away from the unsure, this, that, the other. But there is no unsurety unless you bring the text. And then there's a text is 50-50 or something. Yeah. Do you get it? Is that okay?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. I hope I answered that one.